Tetris is arguably the biggest video game franchise of all time. There's a version of it in some form or another on basically every console since its 1984 debut on Soviet's Electronica 60. Like a lot of people, I was introduced to it via Nintendo and played the NES and Game Boy versions quite often. In 1993, a sequel was developed by Nintendo and released on the Game Boy, NES, and Super NES. The NES version is the one I'll be covering here. The success of Tetris led to many copycats. It was basically the new Pac-Man or Mario in terms of following a successful formula, and to this day a lot of mobile games like Candy Crush, for example, owe their existence to Tetris. So how do you go about making a sequel to Tetris? How do you improve or expand upon this perfect little puzzle game? Well, simply by taking arguably the best copycat of the time period, Dr. Mario, and molding it with Tetris to create this bastard child. It's like the time Death Clock became infatuated with the Death Clock cover band and decided to become a cover band of the cover band of their own band. In a way, that's Tetris 2. It incorporates the core mechanics of Tetris, but instead of creating horizontal lines to wipe out blocks, you're taking these multicolored pieces and lining them up by color. And similar to Dr. Mario, a string of 3 pieces, horizontally or vertically, will wipe those blocks out. Also similar to Dr. Mario, you've got pieces already on the board when you start, and clearing the board wins you the round, and you move on to the next puzzle. In fact, the whole interface looks a lot like Dr. Mario. As far as new features go, you've got some new Tetris pieces, or tetrominos, and when you first see them, you might think that the game crashed. They're broken as shit. There are also bombs, which, if activated, can wipe out a butt-ton of blocks. An improvement over the original Nintendo version is the multiplayer split-screen mode, although this was included on the 10-gen version. You can also play the CPU in this mode. Now, if you judge this game just on its own merits, and take away the comparison to the original, or the inspiration it obviously drew from Dr. Mario, then you've got a decent little game. There's nothing inherently wrong or bad about Tetris 2, but the problem I keep coming back to is that it goes against all my Tetris instincts. You're really taking a whole different approach with lining up the colors and not the lines. Now, this does make it different, and I do understand the approach of trying to develop a different take on the original. Otherwise, what's the point of a sequel in the first place, right? But I'm constantly fighting the urge to play regular-ass Tetris as these blocks drop. The more I play it, the more I want to play regular-ass Tetris. Now, they could have offered up an original Tetris mode in this game so that you could play either option, but then I think most people would just pick regular-ass Tetris, and then we're going back to the question of what's the point of making the sequel in the first place. Probably the best idea for the follow-up was the Tetris and Dr. Mario collaboration release on Super Nintendo. This compilation kept the respective games separate, but included a mix-and-match mode where the 2 games alternate as you progress through. This was probably a better idea than the result of Dr. Mario and Tetris' Frankenstein monster hybrid. I wouldn't say it's a failure, but it did fail to leave any kind of lasting impact, although the bombs do still show up in later iterations of Tetris, so there is that. It's an interesting little novelty piece, but I don't think it's much more than that. And that wraps up this edition of Aqualung's Game Reviews. See you next time.